Telling employees that you love them and never, ever, ever telling a customer no. Is that a recipe for success? Well, it was a recipe that got John Prater to the absolute peak of the gymnasium flooring world. He is today the largest gymnasium flooring contractor in the world. We sat down with John, we did a little legacy interview, and he provided some insights that I think will be interesting to anyone that cares to take a few minutes and watch this video. Hello, this is Paul Nelson. I'm here with Mr. John Prater. John.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I am great.
Good.
Thank you so much. We're doing the 2025 ASBA regional training here in Billings, Montana, trying to talk and teach some of our fellow gym floor contractors maybe the finer points of painting and finishing a gym floor.
Right.
I mentioned it to you, and without hesitation, you said, Paul, I'll come.
That's all you had to do was give me an invite to come to Montana to see some snow-capped mountains, and I'm here.
But the view from inside the gym is kind of all the same, isn't it?
It is. I tell people that a lot. They go, you get to go to Maui, and you get to, but a gym in Maui is very similar to a gym anywhere else.
Right.
Walking out the gym, a little bit different story, but it's work, and it's good work.
For sure.
Yep.
John, you're a humble guy, and maybe you don't like to talk about yourself, but you've built an amazing company. And can you just kind of reiterate a little bit where Praters is at and what Praters is doing? And
so I'm surrounded by just beyond excellent people, and they build me up every day. I love to go to work. I get up in the morning, every morning I'm in our factory because I just enjoy the people that work at Praters. We've got a great vibe, and culturally, vibes ebb and flow during the length of businesses. There's been times when the culture at Praters wasn't that great, and times when I really didn't want to walk in the door. But as you grow, there's challenges, and you have to fit the mix. And so I tell everybody, life's not fair, but we try to build an environment where we have as much respect for the guy that's going to start tomorrow, because we have orientation tomorrow, as for the guys that have been there for 25 years. Everybody is just as important. And getting that to be believed, and getting people to get their arms around it, take possession of it, is a challenge. But we're living in a time at Praters where the vibe is amazing. We've got right at 100 employees, and I watched them from a distance. They have great conversations amongst each other. When people walk into our buildings, we've got multiple buildings, but they're met with a smile, and can I help you? And that's not always been the case, and I'm just very blessed and very happy that we've got a vibe at the company that is, to me, it's everything. It is, you start with the attitudes of the people that are surrounding. If you have anybody that brings that down, it brings everybody down.
for sure.
So we do a lot. It's very difficult. We are in the process of completing 30 Emirates Cup in-season tournament floors for the NBA.
The Emirates Cup, is that in the Middle East then?
No, it's Emirates Cup is the sponsor, Emirates Airlines,
Okay.
and it's for the NBA, and it's their in-season tournament. So NBA in-season tournament is 2 home games for each team in the front. There's 30 teams. Each team will have a unique court that is specific to their brand, to their franchise. And they'll play a number of games through November, and they'll have the championships in December in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And it was a way for the NBA to bring mid-season fan experience to the league. Soccer does it. Soccer has an in-season tournament, and more other professional sports will have these type of events.
Gotcha.
We manage most of the courts within the NBA. Still do a lot of floor work for Division I colleges. Our event team is very busy right now, leading up to the November multi-team event basketball tournaments, whether it's Maui or Baja Mar or Battle Atlantis, Jimmy V, State Farm. We're involved with most of those tournaments. So there's a lot of logistics associated with that. And then we do schoolwork throughout Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. It's where we started. It's the brunt of our business. Backbone of our business is servicing public and private schools in the Southeast.
For sure. And then there's also a component of your business where you're storing these portable floors.
Correct. So a lot of conferences, Southeastern Conference, ACC, others that purchase and own their own courts and bring them out each year for their championships. We will store those courts during the off time, and then when it's comes March and it's time for their championships, we will do some maintenance. We may sand the court, we may change some of the branding on the courts, and then those courts leave our facility, and either one or two of our technicians will go with the courts and help get them situated in the arenas with the arena staff. That's kind of the mix. So very interesting that, for instance, the Southeastern Conference men's basketball championship will be over at 4 o'clock on Sunday, and that court will be back at our facility Monday morning. So lots of overnights, a lot of change outs, a lot of working with arena staff and change out crews for, the arenas, they'll have a concert one day, tractor pull another day, basketball, hockey, they're very good at creating the event world, and it's a tough world to be in because you're on call 24 hours a day, and a lot of the work is done behind the scenes at night. For instance, basketball game with the Nets might be over at 11 o'clock at night, and that floor is taken apart. 4 o'clock in the morning, we're assembling CBS Classic or Jimmy V at Madison Square Gardens, ready to play on it, ready to practice on by noon, play on that night. Game's over with that night, court's up, packed away, shipped back, or stored, whatever's fits the mix. So it's an interesting business, one that I didn't really think I would ever be in, but roll with the changes, and we've tried to do a lot of things in the history of Praters, and we've got in a niche right now where everything's kind of clicking.
Awesome. And when NBC or some television network wants to shoot a show about
opening
basketball,
of their game of the week, they call, and it's very interesting. Commercials, Gatorade commercials, movies, Space Jam and West Side Story and Winning Time for HBO. We've got one right now that we're working on as Running Point with Kate Hudson, and a lot of those come very quickly. We need a court in Los Angeles in 3 weeks, and so.
So you got to build it?
We don't. No, we have our own courts. They're event courts. We've got a dozen basketball courts that are blank, and so we have a patent on a sticker, on a decal, And so we will go in and take a lot of times take one of our blank courts, and we will brand it, even with the game lines, with temporary graphics, so we can peel it up and use that court again.
Gotcha. But those are short turnarounds.
Short turnarounds, yeah. I mean, typically the longest ones are a week for a conference championship.
But that requires you to set that floor up, stripe it, sticker it, brand it,
Correct.
ship it.
Go with it, put it down, fix anything, make sure it's good, make sure it's clean, stay through the games, and then pack it up when it's over.
Fabulous.
Crazy. Never would have imagined.
In your facility, how many square feet do you have under roof in that facility?
So on our portables, we've got a little bit over 200,000 feet. It's an old textile mill. It's built, a lot of the facility was built at the turn of the 20th century. They're known for making all the green wool blankets in World War II. So it was a family-held business in Chattanooga for decades, and it was a woolen mill. And Burlington Industries bought it in the 60s, turned it over to a cotton mill, and then shut the factory down in the late 70s and moved their production overseas. And it sat dormant for 25 years till we moved in. And so that's been an interesting ride. We've been in that particular building for 18 years now. And we've slowly just taken different sections as we've grown.
And it's enormous.
It's, yeah, you get lost in there.
You put, did you say 9 floors up?
9 floors at a time, yeah. And we probably got 80 basketball courts stored in there, along with hoops and shot clocks and scoreboards and finish and abrasives and everything else, you know.
So before you had 100 employees and hundreds of thousands of square feet, let's go back. Maybe tell us where you grew up.
So I grew up in Chattanooga.
So you're really basically still at home.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I grew up in Chattanooga in the 60s and 70s. My family lived in a lower middle class area of Chattanooga called Eastdale. It's not really inner city, but inside the city. And it was very interesting. So when I was in the 4th grade, a black family moved into that section of town. And within a year, it went from primarily a lower middle class income white area of town to be predominantly black area of town. We never moved. And so I was one of the few white people in this whole section of Chattanooga, which was amazing. It was an amazing upbringing. Had a basketball court down at the end of the road, and we'd all play basketball there. One day, Emmanuel Cranford, a good friend of mine that lived just a few doors down from me, I think I was in the 7th grade, and we were playing basketball, and he shows up, play basketball with his cousin. Biggest guy, 7th grade, biggest guy I ever seen in my life, and it was Reggie White. And so I got beat up by him a number of times, but just an amazing upbringing. It's, you know, we all have our own worldviews and how we grew up, but I wouldn't have changed that experience because there was a lot of racial turmoil at that point in time. There was desegregation of the schools and busing, and we were kids, man. We just hung out.
For sure.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
And some still very good friends of mine.
Awesome.
And but grew up in Chattanooga. My dad ran a janitorial supply company, so I was high school. I was stripping and waxing vinyl floors and cleaning carpet and that kind of thing. And went to the University of Tennessee. Spent 5 years in Knoxville. Graduated, moved to Texas, manufacturer's rep in the sanitary supply business, covering Texas and Oklahoma, and met some guys that were doing gym floors, and I wanted to get back to Chattanooga. I wasn't real crazy about living in Dallas. And so my wife and I packed up, moved back in with my parents, and I started calling on schools to basically recoat gym floors. Because I grew up with coatings, I wasn't a big fan of polyurethanes because I would screen and recoat a gym and have a headache for 3 weeks. And so I sought after something better, something different, and started applying water-based finish in the late 80s. And I haven't really looked back. A lot of challenges associated with it, especially the first 10 years through the 90s because of the chemistry of water-based at the time. But again, sticking with it and feeling like it was the right thing to do for myself and for my employees. And we just kind of put our foot down and said, we're going to be a water-based company from the very beginning.
Awesome. And for your customers.
And absolutely. Well, so, when I started, you had a summer. Summers, it was Memorial Day to Labor Day. And it was 3 months. So you had 3 months to get the work done. Well, then it's not 3 months, it's 2.5 months, and it's 2 months. Now it's like 6 weeks. So I realized early on that water-based extended my summer. I could go in the 90s and screen and recoat your gym while school was in. You could play on it the next day, and I wasn't stinking the place out. So I was able to take and push customers into September, October, all the way up to November 1st. So instead of being kind of tied to June, July, and August, we had a couple more months. And selfishly, it worked for us because my job has always been to try to sell out of the summertime when we're all just strung out, killing people to try to get jobs done. And it's our business is cyclical. It's a roller coaster ride. You go from please don't, please call to stop calling.
Yes.
And so I spent 30 years just trying to even that roller coaster out a little bit. And we've tried a lot of different things, man. Outdoor courts, wall graphics, clean whatever, paint your walls, murals, anything to try to make ends meet. Survival.
So when you moved back to Chattanooga, were you operating out of Dad's garage?
Yeah.
Is that how it started?
Sure was. Was there for 1.5 years.
Okay.
My wife and I moved into our starter home, which is still our home. Been there for 34 years.
So the home that you moved into
is still my home.
out of Mom and Dad's basement is still your home.
Went from their basement to there was a shed, and that was our offices up from. I moved into an 800 square foot facility in 1990, I think 98. So I was 8 years in before I actually had a building, 800 square feet. And I walked in, I was like, we'll never fill this place up, and as things went, we took more space there, and then we moved to another operation, was given the opportunity to get into the portable flooring world, and which required a span that would take a whole basketball court, wide span building.
What kind of time frame is this then?
So that would have been 2002 was when we started doing portables, and it was a disaster. I mean, it was bad. University of Cincinnati, Boise State University. I think I lost $100,000 that I didn't have on both of them. And so
Because you had some challenges.
No, we didn't know what we were doing.
Well.
And portables, just like everything else, very different. And so, great statement. And they tell you at the office that I got everybody around our conference table. And I said, as God is my witness, we'll never do another portable floor. That was in 2004. And then Connor called just a week later and said that the Athens Olympics were behind schedule in construction. They were going to put a permanent court in, but they ran out of time. They needed portable courts. Would you be interested in doing them? I'm like, I'm in.
So it took a week if God was your witness.
So I went back in and said, remember what I said? So there's been a lot of that in my day and they'll tell you I'm a flake at the office. I'll say one thing and, just try to make things work.
For sure.
You know?
So now we start doing...
Don't ever say never, because first time you do, you're done.
So you start doing portables in about 04?
Yep.
That's when you did the Athens Olympics for? Okay.
And it was still challenging because we moved in, we were doing one at a time, and within a year we had more demand than what we could fulfill. So that's when I found this mill, and we took 60,000 feet, had 4 bays, and it immediately made us the largest portable people out there.
Sure.
And we've got 4 bays. Well, we can do 4 floors at a time. No, you can't. You got to have people on each one of those floors that know what they're doing. So that's been the challenge, is we've got 9 bays, but we've got to have qualified people to be working consistently on each one of those bays to support what we do, because we've got to get floors done out, another floor in. And so there's been times when we've had floors down, nobody to work on them because we didn't have the experienced people to do it. And our world, you don't train people overnight. It's a process.
For sure.
And so, but that's what I love to do. I love to teach and hopefully make it to where we're not making the same mistakes over and over again. Sure. But we still do make them every day, and we're a good group.
Talk to me about some of the significant challenges, particularly early on, that maybe you came into work and thought, boy, at some point I might just shut this whole thing down.
Well, I didn't know Boise was in the desert. So that chalked it up right there.
Okay.
We did a floor in a humid subtropical environment and shipped it to the desert. Did it contract and gap up all over the place? You betcha. Was I kind of left holding the bag with it? Yeah. But that is one of our challenges, is that we ship floors to Africa. We ship floors to into the Northeast, ship them to Miami, ship them to Phoenix. And so it's very important that we regulate our environment that we're working in and anticipate where these courts are going. And so, there's just the nuances of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, so that you're not shipping the AAC men's court to the women and the AAC women's court to the men. Guilty. Luckily, they were only a couple hundred miles apart, made the big switch, got them where they needed. The next year, they were 800 miles apart. Would have been a problem. We were lucky.
Tell me about your job at Praters. What does your job description look like today at Praters versus maybe what it looked like 20 years ago?
I mean, I've always been sales oriented. So developing the school business, I drove to Nashville at least once a week for 25 years. If I wasn't going to Nashville, I went to Nashville every week because we have a good business still in Nashville. But if I wasn't in Nashville that week, I might be in Knoxville, Birmingham, or Atlanta. And so I traveled a lot, and I was developing a relationship with schools. And so I've always been kind of on the sales side. We've developed a group of people that, and you and I have talked about it, that support me so much that my phone doesn't ring anymore. And so it allows me to be the freshman coach. And so with our growth, with portables, with events, trying to grow our schoolwork business, we've had to hire a lot of employees. And I've got the time to hang out with them and be able to show them, you know, how to stripe out a floor, how to be efficient, how to have a clean job site, you know, just things that, and I enjoy it because when you see these young kids come in, and I've shown you the pictures over the last few years of the complexity of the things that we do. And these very, very complex gym basketball courts that we're producing are being produced by guys that have worked with us for 3 months, 6 months, a year, because we've had to grow that fast. And so I tell people that our employees that they're working on the most complicated courts out there, but everything is a process, and we are very process oriented. And so as long as you follow the process, everything is great. But it's natural. I tell you a story, you take it down the line, tell Mackenzie, you know, Mackenzie tells Colton, comes back to you, it ain't the same story again. And so that's a lot of times that's what has happened to us, where you think we've got it all under control and everything's right, but through the matriculation of communication between folks within our business, it just wasn't translated well. And so you walk in and you go, what are you doing? Stop. That is not correct. You know, well, he told me, I don't care, you know, and just, you know, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And just, it's also interesting, and it's a lot of fun for me, because new employees, when they come into the organization, they're green, and they're wired to absorb information, as opposed to somebody that's been there a long time. And so it's most critical to get those guys on the right track right off the bat, because when they come in and they're new and they're fresh, your brain is wired to accept information more so than somebody that's been taught through 3 or 4 different ways, and then I'm in here trying to correct. Mm-hmm. You know, that's hard to do, because people just are, it's human nature, you know.
In your culture, in your business, who's more important, the employee or the customer?
So that's a tough little question there, because the customer makes or breaks you. That's who's signing your checks. So the customers are extremely important. They are the most important, because if you don't have the customer, you don't have the employee.
Understood.
That doesn't mean that you don't take care of your employees. And so, you know, creating a workplace where there is, we try to not have hierarchy within our company. There's not a lot of, everybody plays from the same field, whether you're an hourly worker, a salaried worker, whatever. We try to keep it even keeled across the board, and try to be fair to the employees, and pay a living wage, and put them in an environment where they want to come to work. Mm-hmm. If they don't want to come to work, I really don't want them working there. Mm-hmm. And because it's not good for them. You know, if you're unhappy at work, I don't care what you're doing, you should go somewhere else, because most of the time when people leave, whether whatever, it generally works out for them. for the better, is what I found. And so, you know, it's, you've heard me say this, America, land of the free. And I guess the hardest thing for me to get across to younger folks is that this is a trade, and you know, if you and I were like, let's just go do some hardwood together, we'd do well, because we'd work hard and we'd knock it out, we'd take care of the customer, they'd pay us, and we would leave and put our money in the bank. And so the learning the trade, whether, I don't care if you're a flooring guy, you're an electrician, plumber, painter, doesn't really matter. If we're setting processes and cultures up that you leave me to better yourself, that's the American way, man. And I want people, people leave and are successful. I love it, man. Because maybe I or other people within the organization had an effect on that. You know, that's one of the things I'm proud of. I think Praters has generated 18 different companies from 30-something years being in business, of people leaving and starting their own businesses, not necessarily in flooring, but they got that drive from working at Praters. It's been, we're a small company, and we're competing with billion-dollar companies. And so we've got a pretty good soul in the mix, I guess.
Where does Praters go from here, John? What's the next step?
So I'm getting older. My partners are getting older. And we are wanting to create an employee-owned business that is going to thrive for a long time. And so it is, you know, if I can give any advice, you know, somebody came up to me 25 years ago, you really need to have an exit strategy. I'm good, man, you know. No, you really should, you know, and it's not necessarily selling to the highest bidder. And so we got a lot going on. I mean, our portable business is doing very well. Our schoolwork as well. Our event business is thriving. We're doing more international work. I don't know. We've never really planned anything. You know, we have opportunities that are put in front of us, and you know, we will try them, and it may not be successful, but if you don't try, you don't know. So like I said, we've tried a lot of stuff, synthetics, and you know, all kinds of different things, and if you don't try, you don't know.
Have you accomplished more throughout the years than you thought you would, say, 25, 30 years ago?
I mean, everything is perspective. So, you know, when we got our first college, you know, that was, we're going to the moon, man, right? I don't really look at it that way. I mean, I didn't set out to accomplish anything but put food on the table, man. And so, you know, it's been a ride. It's been a great ride. But you know, I'm not done yet. What's coming in the future, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it, whatever it is.
That's so awesome. Can you isolate what continues to motivate you and drive you forward, and to continue to pick up the phone and jump on a plane and go here and go there and talk to this person or that?
What else am I going to do? I mean, you know, coming to Montana, hanging out with 24 guys over the last day or two, meeting people that, you know, I've I've known of their companies, or we've got some heritage there, whatever, may know their dad or that kind of thing. Just developing relationships with people. That's always kind of been my thing is, you know, I feel the vultures nipping at my heels just a little bit every day when I get up, because I've had them nipping at my heels since day one.
Sure.
So I want to protect that. We're only as good as the last floor we did, you know, and so, you know, you can go down really fast if you're not careful. And so I feel like the group that is at Praters, and I don't do this that great, I'll say this, but I try to be a servant leader, and that's put others first, and I try to get other people to be a servant leader. And what does that mean? You know, what servant leadership means? Well, it means you put other people first. And it means that you're not going to ask anybody to do what you're not willing to do yourself, and you mean it. I tell people all the time, it's like, especially with younger folks, is the way we are in this world these days is that it's real easy to just tell people they suck. You know, it's real easy to just belittle people and downgrade people, and these kids these days, they ain't no different than they were before. Now, maybe they didn't have a father figure in the home, or maybe they didn't have the same type of responsibilities that maybe you and I had. Can't blame it on them. So you can, if you tell them they're terrible, they've already heard it. But if you tell them you love them and you mean it, and you really kind of follow it up with action, it's a difference maker, and it freaks them out. And I like freaking people out. And so, you know, that may sound a little, you know, whatever, but it's the truth. And it's nothing more than walking in the door in the morning and, hey man, how's it going? Everything good? You know, and having a conversation with everybody, and, you know, and letting them see that I'm no better than you. You're no better than me. I'm no better than you. You know, we're just all part of this plan. God put us here together. Let's make something good, you know? So that's pretty much it. And I get up every morning ready to go. And they'll tell you that at the office. And, but I just enjoy it, man. I've found a business that it's in my blood. And I think most sports flooring people feel that way. When you create, and you know, you put that last coat on a court and you look back and go, man, look what I did. That's pretty cool. Yeah. You know, it does get in your blood. And there's a lot of pride associated with that. So, you know, I've pretty much know everybody in our industry because I've outlived most of them, you know, but you know, generally everybody in our industry has that kind of passion. Mm-hmm. And it's in their blood. And that's what's good about our industry, is it's a very close-knit group of people, very, very narrow market. And if you think about it, 100 companies doing all of the gym floors in America, that's not very many.
Right.
And so, you know, news travels fast. So, you know, do you want to have a good reputation, or you want to have a bad reputation? Mm-hmm. And that's why I was saying earlier, we're in this deal, is that we have a tendency to, you know, he's the enemy because he works for a competitor. Really? Do you even know this person? Right. You know, just because he works for somebody else, he's terrible, they're terrible. You know, I never have really got that mentality. Mm-hmm. And so we compete, and I'm a competitor, but at the same time, it's not my decision to make. It's the customer's decision. Right. So if for some reason I don't get a job, I would never protest a bid. I would never, if you're my customer, or if you're a customer and you choose to go with Bill, great. You know, if I can ever be of service to you in the future, let me know. You know,
And there
that's
is a
it.
future.
Yeah.
And they'll have a new AD and a new superintendent.
Yeah, I mean, it's you strong arm people and put the pressure on them. I just never have. That's not my style. I wouldn't feel right doing it.
For sure.
And so I feel like if you're the decision maker and you choose somebody else, I didn't do a good enough job selling you. So it's all on me.
Awesome.
And if you've got a relationship with that person who's been giving you that good service I'm not going to get in the middle of that because you're being taken care of. And not necessarily the mentality of our industry is, get it whatever you can get it. And, I see a lot of people that are preyed upon in our industry because they maybe don't have the financial resources or they're new or that kind of thing, which I was. People, he's just a trunk slammer. Well, I was a trunk slammer out of my dad's garage, I'm one of them, but I had to do what I had to do. And all I wanted to do was provide a service to somebody, get paid for it. How hard is that? Don't be besmirching me when you have no idea who I am, and so it's trunk slamming, say that doesn't sit well with me because that takes away the free enterprise that this country was built on.
For sure. You told me something one time in a telephone conversation that I thought was profound.
Well, oh my gosh.
I certainly don't want to get you in trouble at home, but
And that's all right.
we all have kids.
I'm in trouble every day.
Well, there you go.
I apologize every day when I get up.
There you go. But we were talking about kids, and you had made this comment that I don't want to give my kids too much.
Right.
Because I would take away from them the satisfaction of their own accomplishment and creativity.
Absolutely.
Does that sound like something you would say?
It's something, not to get political, but generational wealth is, I don't think it's good. I think that people need to have the opportunity to go out and feel some sort of accomplishment that they've done something out of, working not necessarily with their hands, but with their brains to accomplish something and just not have things given to them.
Right.
And, I tell people all the time, I mean, we've been in business 35 years. If you're a vendor of mine, they will tell you slow pay, sweating out payroll, on the brink of annihilation many times through that time. And I don't want my kids to go through that because that's a lot of pressure. And it's a lot of pressure for folks that are starting up in the business and trying to get things going. And so so it's 31, 32 of the 35 years was a struggle. We were always doing cool stuff, and it opened up. Basketball opened up the ability for me and a lot of other folks at Praters to travel the world, which is a benefit. But the bottom line was pretty anemic always through the years. COVID hit. I mean, when COVID hit, I put a pretty good face on it, but it was not great times. And, but I couldn't go to my home in Florida because I don't have one. I couldn't sequester myself away and just shut the company down. We had to survive. So I was at work every day. I was staying in hotels, and I'm the only person in the whole hotel, flying in planes that were empty, just to get by, just to squeak it out. And I think that tenacity through those years has put us where we are right now. And that's in a really good spot because we never said no to anybody. And at a time when they were hearing no from everybody. But it wasn't because it was just survival. I mean, that's it.
Kind of in closing here, I want you to address something that you touched on earlier. But you're right. There aren't that many companies. You use the number 100 companies. I don't
Right.
know if that's what it is. A few more, a few
Right, right.
less, maybe. But there might be more people that work on rockets than work on gym floors in this
No,
country.
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
It's a pretty small group.
Yeah.
Why are they so passionate? Because they all are. I agree with you. And,
Yeah.
and some of their passion comes out maybe in some negative ways, like you were
Yeah.
mentioning, and some of their passion comes out in positive ways. But these are passionate guys
Right.
and gals
Right.
that work in the gym floor
Right.
industry. What do you think drives that passion in this particular group of individuals?
Well, we're in sports. Sports is competitive deal. There's a lot of sports people in our business that are highly competitive, and that's not a bad thing. And so I think the endorphins for winning the bid, the endorphins for making that sale, from the operation side, the endorphins that you get of creating something that's very unique, is what drives a lot of folks. And I think it's also the narrow industry with limited folks. I think there's probably more focus on people being successful. If they were kind of in the background with 1,000 other companies, they may not have to be so passionate. It's a big part of our business, and it is, I think a lot of it is entrepreneurial. I think there's a lot of that in our industry. And I was going to say this earlier, is that, and going back to young people in the trades and that kind of thing, is there is so much opportunity for people within this industry to learn a trade and make really good money, have success by learning this trade and being able to perform, whether with a company or as a subcontractor, to do great things. And I think it gets in your blood, because what we create is these days is artwork. I mean, it's pieces of art,
Right.
So that's pretty cool stuff.
And you think about it from the standpoint of the kids, the students.
Yep.
They're going to prom on those floors. They're going to the homecoming dance on our floors.
Right.
There's a lot of memories, not to mention basketball games and volleyball games and choir and different events that will go on in the gymnasium.
Right.
That is the centerpiece of that school.
And that's what started us with talking about branding to schools in the early 90s, was you've got a blank canvas. We're going to come in, we're going to sand your floor. The community, when they come into your building, they're not going into your library, they're going into your gym. What kind of messages do you want to get to the community from their experience in your gym? And that's kind of how we, that's been a big part of our growth, is making basketball courts pretty. And so that's through the graphic design process, through innovation in application techniques and that kind of thing, is it's what's cool. The NCA came to me when we did our first Final Four for Connor, and it was in 2009. That was the men's championship was in Detroit. The women's championship was in St. Louis. The men had a smoking tire with some fire coming off of it, and the women had the gateway arch over the entire floor, airbrushed, all of it airbrushed. And they're like, can y'all do this? Like, absolutely. I got the phone on, how are we going to do this? So we, no kidding, went out and got a paint sprayer and some plywood and figured it out in 4 weeks before we had to actually do it. So our first airbrush was on the men's and women's Final Fours in 2009.
Fabulous.
And, going through and actually making it work. And it was not without, it got a little dicey, but we figured it out, made it work, and that's typically what we try to do. We try not to say no to people, and that's kind of been our mantra.
That's come up more than once in this conversation. You don't say no.
Well, as I've
Very often.
gotten older, there's times, and that's, again, it's like, you can't say no when you can't pay your bills. You have to say yes, because that's a form of income that takes, I don't care if I'm stickering up your walls. It's income to me, and I'm going to be able to make payroll or pay somebody next week. And so that's what I meant about preying on people is, there's a tendency when you're starving, you've got to say yes because you got no choice. And, thankfully, there's times now when we can say, is this really in our best interest? But it's in our best interest 99.9% of the time,
To say yes to
to
the
say
customer.
yes, absolutely.
Final thoughts, John, about the industry, about young people coming into the industry. Anything that we want to wrap up on here?
I love what you're doing. I love your social media. I think that you are taking a stab at trying to educate educate our industry. I would like to see more of that. This is your second year of doing a hands-on regional training where you're taking a floor and sanding it all the way down, painting and finishing it, doing a community outreach through ASBA. I think it's amazing. I would love to see other people within ASBA to take a little bit of the reins, and we need to do more regional training because we are sorely lacking in our industry. As you and I talked about when we first started talking 5 years ago, is there's a need to educate. Quite frankly, the industry's not doing it, and there is a need for that. And there's not a sports flooring trade school class being taught at the local community college or university. The only way that's going to happen is through us. And so when you call me and say, hey, do you want to participate? Absolutely. Because, there's 20 people here. There's some that have experience, there's some that don't have experience. Maybe they'll pull out something out of here that helps them in their future. And if more people would do it, then they would, the owners, the suits, would understand that you're only as good as the technicians that walk out the door. And you can talk all you want to, but if your employees aren't following up with good processes, good practices, then you're going to fall short of what your anticipated goal is. And so what's the hurt of training people? Well, I might lose them. So what if you lose them? If you've trained and you've trained well, then it's systematic culturally within your company to where you bring somebody else in, and you're not having to do it. It's the process of the company. And so, but it's too hard for me to do by myself. And I found that, the more I talk to my employees, the less they listen. So just because it's redundant. And so to be able to, and one of the things that we're going to do, one of my goals coming up is to bring industry people in and talk to our employees so they don't have to hear it from me. And even though they're saying the same things, it's a different approach and taken differently with the employees. So the technicians make or break us, and you can sub out all you want, but there is definitely a need for more subcontractors if that's the way you're going to do it. But company people are just as important, and there is a need. How come we can't find people to work? Well, I mean, train them up. Make a place where they actually want to come to work. And that's something I think that we've done pretty well, is to take people and create a working environment that they want to come to work at. And that's hard to do because it's one-on-one commitments. And so if you don't spend time as a manager or as a trainer or as a supervisor or as a lead to really get down and explain things and spend time with people instead of, hold this tape measure, hold this string line, without explaining why, then you're hamstringing yourself, because you're going to have to do that forever. When if you just took a little time, spent time to explain it, then all of a sudden you can turn your back a little bit and let them do it. And that's how it works.
Well, and isn't that extremely fulfilling? I mean, I find it when you have an employee that maybe becomes better and quicker at lining out a gym floor than you ever were.
You got a superstar, man. I mean, Colton is he's great. And I mean, those guys are out there. It is a numbers game, just like sales is a number game, and trying to find the right mix. But there's people out there. How's Colton?
24, 5?
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't have 25. Me, I was stupid. Well, he's got it going on, and no matter what he does in his future, the things that he's learned here, he'll be able to take to whatever he does.
100%. But I will tell you, as somebody that has put on these trainings,
yep.
Colton grew last year down in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He had to put an agenda together.
Right.
He had to put learning objectives together.
Right.
He had to figure out how to teach that class. That was huge for him
yep.
in his learning. So,
right.
So we were offering to help train anybody else that was interested, right. But it helped our company tremendously.
Without a doubt. And preparation is everything. And so and that's another challenge is, and I challenge our employees is, you need to anticipate what you're doing tomorrow and the next day and the next day, so that you can get it into your mind what your workload is. And so that we're not having to spoon feed you every day and say, hey, go over there and paint these game lines, or go over here. And you need to anticipate. And so, and that type of thing will make you do it because you're in front of people. And I'm really looking forward to Chad Mildred and Colton putting on their ASBA presentation, because it's I don't think either one have done it in that type of deal, and it's just going to make them better.
100%.
Yep.
And I appreciate what you said. Maybe Colton goes out and does something different in life,
right.
But I'm always going to feel like he learned some things at Western Sport Floors that he's going to take with him.
I mean, there's people that call me and just, not all the time, but periodically, and they just say, hey, just want to let you know what I learned at Praters has really helped me through my career or whatever. And that's everything. It means a lot. And everybody is different. And just because I espouse that I am a servant leader, and I fall short all the time. I'll lose my cool, and they'll tell you that. But they all know that I'm looking after my best interest. My best interest is only made through them. And so if they're successful, I'm successful. And that's just not words, it's the truth. Because a bad technician that is unsupervised can set you way back really fast. Mm-hmm. And so, but there's reasons for all of this. People, they don't do this stuff on purpose typically. They just haven't been trained correctly, or they're not taking possession of what they do, and that's a challenge. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. But it's a great challenge, and it's one that, I enjoy being able to spend time with people within our company and try to help them thrive. And, I'm not the guy that's making them thrive. Take Mark Franey. Mark came into Praters and he made his own way. And he's an owner of Praters now. And because of his passion and his due diligence and thinking outside the box and doing things that put the company first, a lot of sacrifices. And so, and those, they're out there, man.
For sure they are.
Those folks are out there.
But it's like searching for gold. You gotta
Man,
sift through.
but it takes so much pressure. Like I don't feel. I think it's part of it. My kids are grown. I'm older. I don't feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'm able to delegate and not lord over people. If you put people in a management, so let them manage. And that's a challenge. And so just been very blessed. Got a great group of folks, and they take a lot off of me, and allows me to enjoy my my older years.
John, I want to personally thank you.
Hey,
both for sitting down and chatting with me.
I enjoy it, always.
And for taking my telephone call. You always take my call.
So a lot of times I can't see who's calling me, so I got to answer it regardless.
It could be a university.
No. It's like I said, relationships are everything. I think that there's a lot of people that are trying to make a change in our industry. You're one of them, and starts at the bottom, to train folks up. And you give me the opportunity to come out and hang out with folks, I'm going to do it because I've got the time to do it.
Right.
And it's a time in my life when I'm able to do it, and so why not? It's what it's all about.
Thank you, John. We'll
Thank
see you down the road.
Enjoyed it.